I'm here at the Blind Tiger Ale House in New York City in the West Village with Ben Weiss from the Bruery. This is Barry, of course, from the Brewed Palate. So what brings you to New York? You rarely come here. It's great to see you.
I guess we should come more often, but just here to do a few events and some trade shows and whatnot. Hang out with the cool people like you.
So one question I actually had from one of the patrons inside was, now that you've decided to close the provision store in Orange County, what is the culture like at the tasting room? What has changed since you closed the store? What are like the new beers coming out like now that you don't display them at the store, but you display them more at the tasting room?
It's been almost a year since we closed, so business in the tasting room is up quite a bit, and really it was a hard decision to close the store because we liked it a lot and it was a lot of fun. We had some great people working there, but what it let us do is just focus more time and energy into the actual beer, which is what we're here for, instead of constantly thinking about how to run a retail operation, which is not our core focus. So we're just making more beer and having more fun.
Right. And as a somewhat young brewery amongst the more popular craft breweries, the Bruery has developed quite a name for itself, and like some other breweries like Three Floyds and Surly, develops like a kind of following for some really hyped beers. So what is that like for you? Like, you've been with the brewery for a while. What is like the whole culture, at the brewery when it comes to stuff like white chocolate, Black Tuesday? What is it really like to know that you're so respected, you have some hyped beers like that?
Honestly, it never stops being weird. I've been with the company pretty much since we started, and we just did the Black Tuesday sale a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and every Tuesday, the final Tuesday of October when that goes on sale, I think that no one's going to buy it. I don't think that we're that popular, and then lo and behold, our website crashes and everyone goes crazy. And it never stops being weird to be in this like beer celebrity world.
I mean, some of your most unique beers are Reserve Society beers, or just beers that are only served in New York. So what is it like at the brewery, like when you come up with a new beer? Like, what happens? Like, to come up to the idea where you're going to release it, and how, because there's so many new beers that I've heard of coming out. So what is it really like to, you come up with a new beer, and then what happens?
I guess there's no legitimate written down process, but a lot of the ideas come from Patrick. While he's not in the brew house brewing the beer, he's still kind of the idea man for all the ridiculously weird ideas we have, and then he shares them with Tyler King, our brewing director, and some of the other guys, and they kind of figure out how to make it reality. But sometimes it depends, what the ingredients are. If they're more expensive and harder to get, then we can't make that much beer. If it's more experimental, we're sometimes just afraid it's not going to sell that well. It might just be something that we like and no one else does. So a lot goes into it, but there's no strict enforcement. And a lot of times we'll make something again if it goes over well. We're just announced that we're going to brew the Wanderer again, which was something we made a couple of years ago because that was crazy popular.
I mean, originally, I think some of the original beers from the brewery were Belgian influenced, but like as the brewery has grown a lot over the past few years, how has the philosophy and vision of the brewery grown and changed and morphed as you've seen the growth of the craft beer industry and the brewery's role, obviously, within the craft beer industry?
I would still say we're Belgian influenced in a way. Our primary yeast strains are Belgian style, and really what we've always thought about in the Belgian way is that there's no rules to the brewing. There's no. In Germany, you have the Reinheitsgebot, and everything has to be very regimented to this is how you make beer, whereas in Belgium, it's all about the terroir and what's around you and making farmhouse beers and using wild yeast and fun stuff. And I guess now we're more of like, I think in general the craft beer world is focused on America right now, and now it's just, we're the new Belgium, right?
Yeah.
we're the ones who are experimenting, and everyone's trying to do beers like us now. You go to England and they're trying to make West Coast IPAs, so...
I mean, a lot of my interviews I like to try to get a little bit about you specifically. So, of course, you had to be interested in craft beer to, sign up for a job at the brewery. But how has your craft beer palate changed over the years? as you worked at the brewery, which has become such a respected West Coast brewery?
I don't know how much has changed. I've clearly drinking a lot more. I mean, I was a home brewer when I started with the brewery, and used to be one of the brewers there, and now I'm more on the business side. But we're constantly drinking a lot of beer to see what we like and what we don't like, and we actually just went on a trip to Belgium, which sounds like a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun, but it really was focused on learning about beer and discovering what we like, and that was eye-opening to me. I mean, you get a little bit jaded, like in any industry, and but going to Belgium, I mean, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was so excited to be out there, and that was really cool.
I mean, speaking about the fact that it was R&D, like, what are some new things that you guys have been talking about at the brewery to help you continue to grow and build your name as such a respected brewery amongst the craft beer breweries now?
Really, our barrel program. That's the number one focus. I mean, we're continuing to make strides in just being better in everything we do. We have a really solid lab program going. We actually have 2 full-time lab techs now and whatnot. So that's helping us with our everyday beer and with everything else. But then our barrel program is just growing, so we can make more, blend more, and experiment.
Right. So some of the more respected, barrel programs are in California, like the Bruery, Firestone Walker. So how does it really work? Like, you guys, like, of course, people like me see the end product, like, we're like this amazing beer. Like, a few nights ago I had the Ruse, which is a great Ruse, which not many
This year's
American,
version's even better.
yeah, so not many American breweries actually take that upon themselves to do it. So what is it like when you guys are thinking of a new barrel-aged beer at the brewery? Like, what has the development of the barrel program been like for the past few years?
It kind of depends. I guess it goes 2 ways. Some of it is brand new beers that we think might be interesting, barrel aged. We got some Scotch barrels in, so we made a Scotch ale, wee heavy, that we're aging in Scotch barrels right now, and things like that. But also, really, the fun of the barrel aged beers is that we have this huge library of beers that have already been brewed that have tons of different flavor profiles that we can then go through and pick out different characteristics and make beers like Melange number 3 and blend them together. Or if we make a beer that a new beer that doesn't turn out exactly how we wanted it to be a little bit sweeter and it came out too sour, we can go grab some white oak sap and add that and sweeten it up. And it's just this really cool catalog of like amazing, we have over 3,000 barrels, so we have all these crazy, I mean, even within one batch you can have different barrels that taste differently, and when you blend it together it's a whole nother process.
I mean, so being a beer blogger in New York, I know you personally don't come to New York as often as you'd like to, but like, what is the New York beer market like for the brewery specifically?
It's a bigger market for obvious reasons. There's a lot of people that live here. The one thing about New York is it's definitely, it's a nightlife place, so there's a lot more draft beer here than bottled beer. We tend to think of ourselves as more of a bottled beer brewery, and we do a lot of draft, but New York is bars everywhere you go. So that's what they're really about, and that's what they're heavy on. There's not as many. I think there's a lot of people who are interested in beers. We got a lot of the craft beer nerds out here who want the bottles, but there's also a lot of people who just want to go out and drink.
All right, so I guess to wrap things up, one last question: what are some things coming up at the brewery, and like now that you've seen a lot of growth over the past year or so? What do you see for the future of the brewery?
Just more of the same, I think. Just trying to do it better. And, I guess it gets a little bit harder now to be creative because we've already done so much. But we have a lot of new beers on the slate for 2014. It's gonna be interesting.
We're definitely looking forward to that. Again, thank you for flying out all the way to the East Coast from your great oasis of craft beer on the West Coast. But it's always great to see you. And
there's good beers out here.
Cheers,
too.
And thank you for bringing such awesome beer to the craft beer market.
It's good to be here.
Right. Cheers.